Hey everybody. In this video, I wanted to talk to you folks for a few minutes about Destiny 2 for the PC. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why is he talking about Destiny 2? That game's over a year old. Well, for those of you who aren't already aware, there's currently a promotion happening on Battle.net where if you log into the Battle.net client on PC by November 18th, you can get a free copy of the PC version of Destiny 2 added to your account. What that essentially means is that Activision/Blizzard have given away what was ostensibly a $60 AAA co-op first-person shooter. I think for most people, hearing that is going to provide enough incentive to go out and grab and/or launch their Battle.net client to claim their own copy. And I'll have a link in the description down below to the official announcement from Blizzard about this offer. As you might expect, the whole purpose and motivation behind them giving this game away is the fact that there's already a paid expansion available for it with another one just over the horizon. So the cynical sort of glass half full way to look at this promotion might be to say that it's simply a bid on Activision Blizzard's part to entice new people to check out the game and potentially pay for these expansion packs. But the fact remains that this is the full version of the game with no restrictions or limitations placed on it. So, if you haven't played Destiny and you had any interest in it whatsoever, this is probably a great time to jump in and check it out. Having said that, I do think there is another way to look at this particular situation by questioning whether or not this game is actually worth your time. At over 80 gigabytes for the download, and with a reasonable amount of time required to familiarize oneself with the game and its various systems, one could make the argument that it's still worth assessing and analyzing this game from the standpoint of whether or not it's worth the investment in time and effort to play it. And as with many games, I think the answer to that question is likely going to vary from person to person. If you're into first-person shooters, if you're into cooperative games, if you're into massively multiplayer online games, I think that from my experience with it thus far, Destiny 2 has quite a bit to offer. Some of the games that I think this game most evokes or most reminds me of in a positive way would be things like Borderlands or Defiance or other first-person shoot and loot adventure games that I've played in the past and had a favorable opinion of. Now, I will say there are certain aspects of my experience with Destiny 2 that I've found to be somewhat shockingly negative in my first few hours with the game. Probably the most important of which to anybody considering grabbing this thing and downloading it would be the fact that I've run across a number of significant technical issues with the game, such as a quest that got bugged to the point where I had to actually leave an area in the game and return to it to get the quest to reset and allow me to progress, and recurring disconnection issues when playing with friends in a group. Now, I will say that I haven't really run into any technical problem that couldn't be solved by having somebody log out and log back in, or leaving an area / abandoning a quest and returning to it to reset it. But it is somewhat surprising to me that a game this big and with this much money behind it still sports technical issues of this sort over a year after its launch. And I don't think giving the game away for free necessarily justifies them existing. If anything, it kind of perplexes me as to why the folks involved would bother to release the game for free in an effort to promote it and make it more popular without taking some extra effort to ensure such issues and difficulties wouldn't present themselves for new players. But at the end of the day, I would have to say that the technical problems I've run into are not a deal breaker. And while they've certainly been annoying, they weren't pervasive or frequent enough to completely turn me off to the overall experience. The other thing I really wanted to consider in all of this was whether or not it makes sense to play a game like this versus some of the other high-quality, free-to-play first-person shooter offerings currently available. And I think, again, here's a little bit of a double-edged sword where Destiny is concerned, because on one hand, one of the biggest things that it has going for it is the fact that it does have a story / narrative that you play through. that sort of acts as a carrot on a stick or a motivator to lead you through and encourage your continued participation in its gameplay. However, as with many other AAA games that I've played in recent years, I do feel that the narrative elements in Destiny 2 are a little bit lackluster at times. There are so many tropes and crutches and, I would argue, lazy storytelling techniques employed throughout the course of the early stages of the campaign that I honestly have to say if I had paid money for this game, I'd be a bit disappointed. That's not to say that the game isn't fun or entertaining or a good time to have with friends, but from a narrative perspective, I'm very much reminded of my feelings about Borderlands 2 or The Division, games that I felt succeeded almost entirely on the merits of gameplay and mechanics, and almost despite subpar narrative elements. Now, of course, having said that, I find it difficult to ding the game too hard for something like that, especially considering that I'm getting to play it for free. But I can't help wondering if the lackluster elements of the narrative experience might have been a contributing factor as to why Destiny 2 has somewhat struggled to find and retain its audience. Am I having fun with this game? Absolutely I am. Would I, generally speaking, recommend it to fans of first-person shooters, cooperative narrative experiences, and MMORPGs? Absolutely I would, at least in the context of this free-to-play promotion. But when I ask myself whether or not I would have actually been willing to pay to have this experience, the dollar value that I would ascribe to this is significantly less than I might have expected it to be. This is a title that I probably wouldn't have been happy or content to have spent more than $20 on to play. Now, of course, having been gifted a free copy of the game by virtue of this promotion, the only real investment that I've made in it is the time that it took to download it and familiarize myself with it. And therefore, my overall opinion of the game is definitely a lot better than it would have been otherwise. And that's why I feel that my overall recommendation in its favor is sensible. At this particular point in time, I feel like it's pretty unlikely that I would spend money on the additional expansion packs for the game, but I also have quite a bit more of the campaign to play through, and I have had quite a bit of fun experiencing that with my friends thus far. So it's entirely possible that my opinion on that might change over time. Having said all that, I'm going to bring this video to a close. Obviously, this is a very different style of video from what I typically do on the channel, so be sure to let me know with that like or dislike button or in the comments section down below whether or not you enjoy this sort of content. As always, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more videos from me in the future, be sure to hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.
If the light can find its way back to you, then perhaps there is hope for us all. Our numbers will continue to dwindle. We can no longer protect ourselves, much less the survivors. Without the light, are we even guardians anymore?